Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Saint, and today's video is 17 minutes long to kind of prove a point. I took my soul level 80 build, and I took it up to level 140. And the reason I did that is because activity is just better after 100 right now. We're currently on patch 1.05. If you're in the future and you're on patch 1.06, then maybe you can ignore this. I hope so. Patch 1.04 made matchmaking harder. I could do an entire video on why I think that is. A bunch of people, and myself included, who do a lot of invasions, seem to have noticed a priority change in Taunter's Tongue, but that would potentially be a very different video, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. I'll just say I suspect it's temporary, and I suspect it's also a large part of the reason that we're not getting patches currently. I know people are like, just make X thing do Y, and you know, you think that that's how video games get patched, but the problem with coding is when you make X thing do Y, you also make A, B, and C do J. It's all noodles, and if you tug on one noodle, you will take all the sauce off of the pasta. This has been an analogy. Hey, man, I don't find invasions no more. The game must be dead. It's got 7 million people playing it. I urge you, if you are a person who is on YouTube and you are, you know, you don't go to Twitch, you don't hang out on Twitch, I urge you to just like swing by Twitch at some point. Not even my Twitch, just any Twitch channel. I promise you. There are hundreds of invasion streamers who sit around and invade for 6 to 8 hours a day, every day. And you couldn't do that if there wasn't activity. If there wasn't people to invade, you couldn't invade for that long. That includes myself. So here's a 17-minute long video full of awesome clips. These are all fun clips. None of these are from a stream. This is just me hanging out, doing invasions, for the purpose of making this video. Alright, so how do you find activity? First and foremost, activity has noticeably dropped off. I will admit that. I will also admit that the lingering hitbox on Flaming Strike is just nutty. It's nutty. Look at that guy. He just did. Look, you're like, oh, he's not hit. He didn't get. Oh, no, he got hit. Nutty. Alright, sorry. Activity dropped off crazy. So it's like you can find invasions at 15. You can find invasions at 30. I found like a perfect spot for Liurnia at 40. I can invade in Raya Lucaria. I can invade the Liurnia continent, or whatever you want to call it, landmass. Pretty much everywhere. At 40 plus 5, I think is what I went with. And then after that, it's just nothing. It's so hard to find activity. And so I took my level 80 Pyromancer guy, and I took him to 140, and all the activity in the world. So I've got a Carrion Knight guy at 150. I've got a quality build at 130. And now I've got a Pyro at 140, and those are the builds that find the most activity. I suspect my level 100 Moonlight Greatsword build would also find activity. Why is this a thing? Okay, like I said, I suspect that there was something done. Myself and a bunch of other people suspect that something was done in patch 1.04? Yeah. In patch 1.04, it seems like they prioritized Taunter Tongue hosts so that every invader in an area gets queued up to invade that person, and then the game just stops looking for invasions while you wait. It won't say that you're invading someone because you're not yet, but it's also not actively looking for an invasion. It's just got you matched up with that Taunter's Tongue person, and the game is just waiting for your turn. Which just completely screws activity over. And then another thing, and this is an interesting thing. So when Dark Souls 3 came out, that was the first game where I was like, I am going to do PvP from start to finish. I did some PvP in Dark Souls 2, but it was not something that I did like on my first playthrough or even my second playthrough. It was something that I did later on in the game's life. And, you know, Dark Souls 2 was, you know, it was only out for like a year and a half before Dark Souls 3. So later on in its life means something different than if I were to say later on in the life cycle of Dark Souls 3. Because Dark Souls 3 was the only, it was the new PvP game for like 6 years, you know? So when you say later in Dark Souls 3's life cycle, you could mean like 3, 4, 5 years. When I say Dark Souls 2, I mean like 9, 10 months. But anyway, Dark Souls 3 was the one where, when the game first came out, I was like, okay, I'm going to do PvP, like, right off the rip. And, I didn't know what anything was, and so I said, okay, well, what's meta level? That's the level everyone's going to play at, right? And so I just went to level 125, and I just invaded. And I just invaded people in New Game Plus. And I did that for like 6 months before I started making builds that were at different level ranges. And it was, for those 6 months, I just had all the activity in the world. Alright, Elden Ring has no incentive to play New Game Plus, which is one of the game's, like, weaknesses. It's one of the things that's, like, you know, one of the worst parts of the game is that there's no incentive to play New Game Plus. So if you go to level 100, 120, 130, 140, 150, if you go to those levels, you're not going to find people in Stormvale very often. You're not going to find people in Raya Lucaria very often. You'll find them in the Caelid, in the continent somewhere. You'll find them underground. You will find them in the snowfield. You will find them in the mountaintops. And this includes all the dungeons, mines, catacombs, heroes' graves. This includes all those things that are in the snowfield, in the mountaintops. You'll find them in Farum Azula, and yeah, and underground is where he's at. But you're not going to find people like at Stormgrave, and then Stormvale. Sorry, not Stormgrave. You will find people in Limgrave. You will find people in Liurnia of the Lakes. But that type of invasion just gets old to me after like an hour. So I don't want to just invade the first step for 8 hours a day. You know, I don't want to do that. I like to see different parts of the game. You know, I like to invade in different areas. That's fun. I like to, you know, change the scenery. And so Snowfield has that. Mountaintops has that. And keep in mind, Snowfield, Mountaintops, there's like 7 or 8 dungeons. I'm just gonna call them dungeons, but you know what I mean. Mines, catacombs, heroes' grave. There's like 7 or 8 of those in those 2 maps, you know? So there's a lot of places to look. But you have to look. You have to, like, actively go to places and look. For Farum Azula, for example, there's like 4 graces that I like to invade from. Tempest Facing Balcony, something Rooftop, and Dragon Temple. The Dragon Temple one is where you fight the Godskin duo. Just leave that grace and walk out like you're going to make progress in the level, and then invade from like right there. That's its own invasion area. Tempest Facing Balcony it actually invades like 2 areas. It invades right behind it, and it invades in front of it, obviously. And then the Rooftop invades that little rooftop, and then you can also invade beside the Great Bridge, and that's its own area as well. But you have to like look, right? You can get on the map, and you can have the map show you multiplayer activity. I think all that is showing you is how many summon signs are at a particular effigy. Blue circle for co-op, red circle for duelist. What I do is I do the opposite. I go to the opposite place of where those things... So, like, if there's a... You know, if I look on the multiplayer map, and it's like, oh, there's a bunch of activity here, I don't go there. I go to a place where it says there's not activity. And once you get an invasion, it really feels like you sort of like turn the faucet on, and then they become much easier to find. Like if I go into just some random dungeon and I find an invasion, it's like I'll find 4 or 5 invasions in that one random dungeon most of the time. Before I run that place out of activity and then I go somewhere else. So, yeah, that's something to consider if you're looking for activity. But the idea that there's no activity in this game anymore is so funny to me, because there's like 6 million people playing the game. Of course there's activity, it's just a matter of finding it. I see a lot of streamers just stand at one grace and look for invasions, and when they don't get one, they just assume that, like, well, there must not be any. It's like you have to like move around. You have to like look. You have to go to different places, which is great for me because, like I said, I want to see like a change in the scenery regardless. I don't want to invade one place for 6 or 8 hours at a time. I want to see different zones and things like this, you know? Now, the other thing that might be making it easier for me to find activity now is the fact that so many people have stopped trying to invade. Which, you know, as a person who does invasions, is both kind of cool and kind of not. There are situations where I know I'm in a Taunter's Tongue world and I could have another invader show up and help me, you know, have like a 2v2, but it just doesn't happen because no one else is invading. On the other hand, you know what I mean, like somebody has to get that activity. Might as well be me. So I'm kind of torn on how I should feel about that. But in the long run, in terms of like purely selfish content creator Sigma male mentality, it is kind of nice to just be able to invade. All of these invasions that you're seeing here, like, are not me streaming. If I'm streaming, it can be a little harder to find activity because everybody who watches my stream and invades will come to the area that I'm at, and they'll start invading there too, which is cool because then if we find a Taunter's Tongue group that has space for 2 invaders, we can have some really, really fun, stylish invasions. You know, me and somebody who's watching the stream. A lot of people that hang out on Twitch and watch streams are just like absolute beasts at invasions, and a lot of them are also a ton of fun to play with. And as a result, you know, it's always great whenever you get to co-invade with somebody from Twitch chat. But all of these invasions that you're seeing here today, none of these were taken from the stream. This is just me sitting down, playing the game for a few hours, and I found, like, you know, keep in mind, a lot of this is like edited footage. It's been edited down. But yeah, just so many fun invasions that I was able to make like an almost 20-minute video out of like, you know, how long was I invading? I don't know, like 4 hours. I was able to make a 20-minute video full of like awesome clips, what I consider to be, you know, really good fights and really good clips. Like an entire, that's a lot. This might be lost on a lot of you who have never, like, a lot of your invasions, like, sometimes people are like, oh, this guy, he puts his wins on YouTube, but he doesn't put his losses on YouTube. It's like, I don't put most of my wins on YouTube. Most of my wins aren't even entertaining enough for me to think that they're worth putting on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's not that they're bad, it's not that they're not fun, it's just they don't really, you know, they don't tell a story, or they don't have anything cool that happens. All of these 20 minutes that you're seeing right here, these are all clips that I'm like, yeah, that ruled. This was awesome. This was a great invasion. And yeah, like I got 20 minutes worth of what I would consider really good footage out of a 4-hour session, and then not to mention all the footage that I didn't. But actually, some of it I'm going to use for another video. But that will be next time, and that is how we segue into the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Go to different graces. Please go to different graces if you're looking for invasions. Don't just stand at one grace trying to find invasions for 30 minutes. Just go somewhere else. Check those catacombs, mines, heroes' tombs. Check those out. There's almost always activity in those things. Halig Tree, mountaintops, and Snowfield, and Fair Missoula, and underground if you're over 100. Over 100 definitely seems to have more activity than you know, anywhere after 40. After 40, it just feels like there's just no activity for some reason. I suspect because open world game people just have insanely wild builds. You know, you might be level 50 with a plus 20 weapon, and no one's making a build to invade that, because why would you? Anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. Later.